Josh Reyes, welcome to the It's Not That Deep podcast, brother.
Thanks, man. Finally, I'm on it.
Finally, bro. It's been a super long time coming. I remember when you were here when I did the podcast with your partner, my business coach, and also very good friend, Mallory. Dude, it's been a ride, man. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat.
There's a lot of different ways I wanted to start this podcast. You know, I wanted to tell people the story about you are the reason why I'm sitting in this house right now, this studio. I want to talk about your whole journey with LVD fitness and then transitioning to real estate. I want to talk about like a million things. And honestly, that was my biggest, like, how do I start this thing? But you know what, man? I want to let you take the torch here and tell me about your journey. Tell me how it all started, man.
How did it all start? Oh, man. I guess
the Josh Reyes origin story.
The Josh Reyes origin story. I guess we could start in like high school. Kind of like before this, we just started, we were chatting about how I was cutting my own hair and then cutting other people's hair.
Yep.
I feel like I've always been entrepreneurial, and I didn't even think about it back then in high school. It was just another way to make some income, right, while going to school and capitalizing on my skills, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But in high school, that was one of my first side hustles. Another one was BlackBerry housing. So like back in the day, BlackBerries were the go-to phones.
Yep.
And they were either black or white, and it's kind of boring. And I found a website from China that shipped different color housings.
Okay.
And I'm like, cool. It wasn't that expensive, so I got a bunch shipped over, and I pretty much was offering housing switches for people to have like different colored
so
phones.
Basically, when you're asking people for their BBM, it just looks a little bit more drippy.
A little bit. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I charged for that, charged for the install service, and just another way to make money. Then I wanted to go to school for mechanical engineering because I wanted to design cars. I love cars. And then after chemistry and physics, I was like, no, not for me. And then the next best thing was business. So went to school for business, and that's kind of where I fell into more entrepreneurship and met Mallory and started LVD.
Nice. Okay, so talk to me about what is LVD? What made you and Mallory want to start this? And like, what was that all about? What was the why there?
The why, honestly, it was a school project. So LVD stands for Lift, Visualize, Dominate, and we were I
actually never knew that.
Yeah,
I guess I'm not a true OG fan.
That's totally fair. We called it LVD a lot. It's kind of like the process, right? So in powerlifting, you lift, you work out, get ready for competition, and on competition day, you visualize your execution right before you go compete, and then you just go out there and dominate. So I think it's obviously very specific to powerlifting, but it could be relatable to anything in life, right? Lifting is like your preparation. Your visualizing is just you mentally putting yourself in that right space, and then dominating and executing when you have to.
Boom.
Yeah.
So I'd say that you're still running LVD to this day.
Yeah,
just not technically as the business, but with all those principles that you described. I see it. I mean, I know it, and I just want to dive in and tell people a little bit about how we know each other and stuff. Okay?
Sure. Yeah.
So obviously, like I kind of started telling, like I knew Mal just from social media and all this stuff. You guys do an incredible job on social media talking about what you're up to and all that stuff. And I guess I'd caught her at the tail end of LVD when she was still talking about it as if like that was the thing, but she knew that it's on to the next thing. And you're very much a part of that journey. You guys were partners, not only in a business context, but, together as well, right? And seeing and hearing that story from her on my podcast, I was like, this is really interesting. Like, you guys are passionate about powerlifting. You guys create this like apparel company and brand and build a massive community, and like that kind of started spanning across the world, which is like wild coming off like a project and stuff, right? She's talking about like people were ordering it in Japan and like crazy stuff.
It's
like,
insane. The internet is so powerful.
It really is, man. But you guys have taken that and like the whole internet, social media, that world, and like pivoted multiple times and landed at something that like I don't know anyone like you guys. guys. Like it is a genuinely one of the most interesting power couples I know ever. And like I'm so like inspired and like lucky to be your guys' friends. But to give people a little bit of background, like Mallory was going through some stuff at this time and, you know, was burning out with the business. And so maybe you want to talk about that from your perspective a little bit, what that was all like being her partner in both contexts during that time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was the era when like Gary V really popped off, right? So he's like hustle 24/7. If you're not doing something productive, you're like putting that time to waste. So we were like, all right, so we're going to work our ass off and just put our heads down and just keep hustling, right? If you want to be as successful as like Gary and some of his friends, right?
Yeah.
But then we quickly realized that that's not sustainable and that not everyone is like Gary V and not everyone can do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she started having some health things that she was figuring out, which at first was just affecting her training, right? So it was really frustrating. But then as we dove into it deeper, it went further than her training and it was just like really affecting her day to day. So that's when she took a break from powerlifting, and from there, it kind of opened her eyes to what she wanted to do moving forward with business and also training. And then I kind of grew out of powerlifting as well. I love the sport.
Was this kind of at the same time though?
A little bit after her.
Okay.
Yeah, like I was training and competing maybe a year after she stopped. But it's just intense. Like I worked out like 3 to 5 times a week, and at least 3 of those workouts would be 3 to 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. So like even though it was physically draining, it was also mentally draining to then go home and then like do a business, right? And I guess it was also tough when we went full time. And what not many people really talk about is when you go full time, it's just like it's real, because like that income is what you live off of. And we lost that creative side to it. So instead of like doing things because we liked it, we were doing it because we had to sell items to make sales to live.
Wow.
Right. So it just got really it got really stressful and we lost our creative aspect. But yeah.
So this was kind of then not only for Mal, but like for a year later, kind of for you, an inflection point where you're like, okay, what else am I interested in? What else would I like to do? Talk to me about then getting into real estate, because it just seems like so like you're doing this thing, you're growing this company, and it's like, okay, wait, turning left, doing this other thing now. What was that like?
It was interesting because when we decided that we didn't want to sell t-shirts forever, it was easier for me. I don't know if it was because of my personality or the way I deal with emotions, but I was kind of over it right away. Whereas Mal took a little bit longer to get over it. And
you think it was the identity of like being that entrepreneur and like not because she no longer had her like normal job and you guys have kind of gone all in on this and like it's very public, your journeys, like you've got, like I said, a community and stuff behind you as well. So like, do you think that had to do with it, like the identity part, or was it something else?
Probably. And I guess it was also the fact that it just like stopped. It's not that like we sold it or like someone was going to continue running it. It was almost like a death in a family in a way. So I guess how you grieve is how we were dealing with that. And for me, I kind of just like wanted to move on. I just didn't want to think about it.
Because it was your baby.
It really was, right?
Yeah.
And for her, like she was just like in it right away, and which makes sense, right? But then a couple months, maybe a year after, it really started to hit that, oh, it's not a thing anymore. You know, like that's when it started hitting me more, when she was already over it at that point, right? So I guess it really does come down to how you grieve.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then so how that process went forward with real estate was we sat down and we knew we wanted to be entrepreneurs. It was okay if I had to get a job just to like for the time being, but
pay your bills.
Yeah, exactly. So I looked at my skill set and what I wanted in life and what I wanted to build in business, and everything just like kind of geared towards real estate. And it's funny because you have the book there, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and our mentor recommended that book to us, and I read it, and it was the first book I finished that wasn't for school ever. Like I don't read, right? And now I love reading, right? So that book changed my life. talks about real estate a lot, so that kind of got me interested in real estate. So
I feel like it's a required reading.
Right? Yeah, like it should be an English class in high school.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's really interesting, man. That
Yep.
like, you guys have always been, I've always known you guys to be extremely self-aware and like taking that step back, breathing, realizing what's going on here, but then also taking a realistic accounting of, what are my skills, what like value could I bring in what other realm. And so you found real estate, man. You started working at Blue Panda Realty here in Ottawa. And what was that journey like, getting your license and everything? Like, were you doing this while keeping another job in the time being? Like, what was that transition to that?
Yeah, so that was an interesting period. I think it was, when was that? 2019. So the year 2019 was when we were kind of winding down the apparel side of LVD and starting our next chapter. But we had some media contracts for like nationals and stuff, so we kept those. So LVD continued for that year doing media, but the apparel, we just stopped making stuff. And
That's when I met you guys.
Yeah, right. Like the tail end, right? But we were kind of stuck because we were living off LVD, right? And we didn't have income coming in. So we were actually like, our backs were against the wall. I'm like, how do we make money? And obviously one option is to get a job, but we were like, hey, what are we good at? Social media marketing. So we went out there and we pitched ourselves to small businesses and got 2 or 3 solid contracts where we would manage and handle some social media accounts.
Nice.
So we got that, just enough to pay our bills and stay afloat. And once we had that on the wrap, all our extra time would be towards building the next thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. So in my spare time, I would do my real estate course and my licensing. And Mal at the time didn't really know what she wanted to do yet. I was set real estate and she didn't know. And I told her, take the summer to do nothing and have no expectations. Just do everything. See what you like, right? See what other business models are out there and see what really feels good to you. So that's what she was doing.
And I'd say she landed on it.
She did. She did. It's like perfect. She's such a people person, right? And she has such a talent of like just listening and knowing what you actually need and cutting through the bullshit.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, she definitely
the no BS business coach.
For sure.
Right.
You know,
and from my perspective, for those listening, Mallory was my business coach for about 6 to 8 months. And I still consider her, even though I'm not using her services at this time, I still consider her one of like one of the most influential people I've ever met in my life. And it's because she cut through all the BS. And she was one of the only people I know who was able to check me. And she does that. That's really important because, it's very easy to surround yourself with people who are going to...
A bunch of yes men
and agree with what you're saying and gas you up and like make you feel like whatever you're doing is great and everything's going to work out. And look, there's a place for that. I completely think that, not everyone, you can't only have mouths around you, right? But I do think that it's very valuable to at least have a couple, because I need that. I respond best to tough love. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. And I know she's going to listen to this too, but I'm going to be completely honest with you. I didn't like Mal as a person. I didn't know her. Right. I straight up didn't know her.
Were you intimidated by her?
No, intimidated is not the word I'd use. I'd use like, everything that she does is so on point that it's like I was oddly jealous,
right?
Envious in a weird way. I was like, dude, she's got it. Like she's landed on her feet now. She's really understands what she wants out of life and stuff. And I'm like, I love that. So it's not a negative thing. It's like completely, I love Mal, I love you, But I was like, dude, I just like, she's always like knows the answer. Like, this is crazy, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you might have a little bit of a different perspective. I'm talking from a business perspective, and from me at the time, completely lost, not knowing what I want to do, what even running a business is. And I was like headed towards a path of like just destruction business wise, taking on too many things, attaching my identity too much to like what I was doing, how it's going to be portrayed and all that kind of stuff. And why I bring all this up is because what you mentioned there during that summer, you know, you're like, go and just explore some things. You picked up a couple contracts just to pay the bills, but you didn't advertise it or become like,
exactly. It didn't have to be a business.
it didn't have to be a business. It could just be a couple contracts and that's it. And that was one thing that stuck with me so hard with Mal, right? That she straight up was like, because I would always, in these calls with her, I'd always just be like, yeah, like I got this contract, like it's really good, but like I don't know how to get like 3 more like that and like build an agency and get employees and do this and do that, like this big thing. She'd be like, whoa, cowboy, chill out. Why does it have to be a business if you don't even care or like it or want to fulfill the service? I'm like, I don't know. I just thought that's the logical next step here. It's like, no, you can have clients and not tell a soul. And I was like, it was a paradigm shift for me. It was like, oh my God, this person who absolutely crushes it on social media. A lot of her brand is literally like sell on social, building without burnout, all this stuff. She's telling me not to push it and be all, you don't need an Instagram account or business cards or a website or all these crazy vanity things that don't matter at all for like the actual success of a business. You just need like 3 or 4 clients, pay your bills, quit your job, and then reassess. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's right. I hate you, Mal. That's what I mean when I say I don't like Mal. It's like, she's always right. I love Mal. I don't like her because she's telling me what most people are not willing to say.
Right.
Everyone's going to tell you like, oh yeah, bro, like you got to just go and like do this. And like Gary Vee said that this. And like, so going back to it. And I just think that it's really important to have that voice of reason. And going back to your story with all that, so you go into the real estate, Mal pivots towards coaching and courses and like just being a business coach and helping other people grow and blow up their businesses. And so do you think that from her career or her diving into this area, she had a natural knack for diving into people's businesses and fixing problems, or was this something that she had to learn as well through trial and error?
No, I think she had it. She just didn't know how to package it as a business or a service. She's always been like that. Even like in powerlifting, she would cut through the bullshit and not everyone would like it. Yeah.
Interesting. And then from you diving into the real estate to getting your license to your first deal, talk to me about what that was like for you.
It was fun. I business all the way right through university, so I knew nothing about like the trades or construction. So that was the hardest part for me to learn about real estate. So that was the biggest learning curve. But what I did know is I knew how to get leads. Right. Yeah. So, and having watched like a ton of real estate videos, it's a lead gen business. Right? Like you can be the best negotiator in the country, in the world, but if you have no clients to negotiate for, what's the point?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I love that. And so why you're unique and why you're my real estate agent and like a lot of people's real estate agent in the city is because you are like the #1 social media real estate I've ever seen, right? I mean, there's a couple of people out there who might be doing a little bit more YouTube and this and that and whatever, although, you know, you're not far behind now with your YouTube channel and stuff. You've said this publicly that you get all of your leads from social media, primarily Instagram, and the rest of it's just word of mouth referrals, correct?
Yeah.
Talk to me about the power of social media and your business.
Well, I learned that power through LVD, right? And the type of sales that I like doing, it's inbound sales. Like I hate it when I don't like cold calling or going out to people. I'd rather just like be a good person. You're into me, you trust me, and then you want to try and do business. That's how I approach it. And it's funny that you mentioned the #1 social media realtor, because I didn't even know about that until someone sent me that article and was like, congrats. I was like, what? I opened it and it's funny. So that morning when I was on Instagram, I saw some agents posting their placings. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like I didn't apply. Like maybe next year I'll apply. And then I get a text from a colleague, and he's like, "You're number one." I'm like, "That's awesome!" Like, what?
Yeah, that's cool, man.
And since then, I mean, it's one of those things where I didn't want to be the number one social media realtor, but I knew I wanted to leverage social media to do well in real estate, because I felt like there was a hole or a gap in how people were doing social media. So it really paid off.
And for those listening right now, you got to go follow my man right now. Go shout out your Instagram real quick.
At Josh H. Reyes. Yes, I tried to get Josh Reyes. He wouldn't sell it to me, so I had to add another H there.
But I don't even think people care about the username, because once they follow you, they're going to realize that you put out some of the most valuable content on there. And one thing I find really interesting is that your style of putting stories out, and as well as your in-feed posts, I always tune in. Whether I like have time or like I'm not going to your page to creep it, but I definitely, when I see it pop up, when I see you post a story, I want to listen to it. I want to hear what you have to say, because you've built this credibility over such a long period of time. And I know I'm not the only one. I know even people listening to this podcast right now are like, yeah, exactly. When you post a story about anything, whether it be money, like just general personal finance, real estate, market updates, selling homes, closing for clients, and like really great wins, which we'll definitely get into one of those in a bit. But I just think it comes off so authentic. Is this something that you've always done, even through LVD and everything? Or is this something that you realize that like, I got to do this in order to, grow my brand and stuff?
No, I never really thought of it like that. It's more so just like putting myself out there and telling people who I am.
Yeah.
Same with LVD. Like, I was a lifter first, and then they would find me, and then they would find out about LVD.
Right.
And when I look at my content, actually more than half of it is just personality instead of real estate. It's just showcasing that I'm into like fitness or into dogs, right?
And cars.
And cars.
And family.
Yeah.
Like one thing I've noticed is that like you have extremely close-knit family ties with all your Filipino brothers and sisters, right? And I love that. I love to see that. I love to see the basketball tournaments to the the big cookouts and the parties that you guys have together. It shows, oh man, he's a human who does real estate. He's not a real estate agent.
Exactly. And what I realized is I'm not the real estate agent for everyone, but there's a real estate agent for everyone.
Ooh.
Okay. And I'm cool with that, because I get personalities, right? I'm not going to force myself to be a realtor when we're not a match. If anything, it's going to take 2 or 3 times more of my energy, right, to work with someone who don't click together, And I think that's a big part of my success, is just getting people who are like-minded and share the same interests as me.
I think you and I really relate on that in terms of the inbound sales and whatnot in our respective businesses as well. Because to me, I would much rather someone know who I am and like me for me and or not or whatever. It's even better. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because at that point, it's like you're now just wanting to invest in this relationship, and it's a give and take, and there's no slimy outreach or feeling weird or just like the energy as well is different, right? When someone's coming to you, they're already interested in what you have to sell. And Mal talks about this all the time, and I love this as well. And she actually kind of taught me this, because I was fed this narrative that outbound is like the way to go. This is how you scale. I'm seeing all these people talking about like, just go on LinkedIn and message 1 million people and send the cold emails and do this and go to these websites and scrape for. It's just felt wrong to me. It felt like work. And the minute it feels like work, I'm like, I just don't want to really do it. I'm the hardest working lazy person in the room. You know
I love that.
So going back to it though, man, I think you brought up such a good point there that, you want the people that want to work with you naturally, because it's just going to be more fun.
Yep.
And that was something that I found with you when I reached out to you earlier in 2021, this year, when we're recording this podcast. I reached out to you. I talked to Mal about it first, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to Josh. And I just want to see, is there any possibility of me potentially maybe somehow getting into real estate? And I was at the time, frankly, in no position to be even entertaining this. And so I hit you up, and I think I sent you obviously a message on Instagram, and might have been a voice note or something, but you got back to me instantly, which one thing, if anyone's listening to this guy, I just don't know how he's such a ninja in terms of just like getting back to you instantly. So I'm like, already like, I like this guy, you know what I mean? Which is probably like a lot of your clients kind of have probably some warm intro to you one way or another. Very smart. I love how you've done that in such an authentic way. But so I reach out and you're like, yeah, like, let's talk, like, let's get on a call, talk about whatever. We get on a call, I talk about it, I tell you, look, I have a job right now. I might not have a job in the future. Is there any possibility of me getting into the Ottawa market? I don't even know what I want. Maybe it's a condo, maybe it's a house. I don't know. How do I know what I can afford? How's this whole process work? And you being the absolute pro that you are, you're like, here's my team.
Yeah.
And this is a really important thing that I really want to talk about on this podcast today, is like, you have a team and you lean on a team. Talk to me about that a little bit from your perspective. I want to hear your end of things once you've got the lead in Deepak.
In Deepak, yeah. I once I have the lead, I recommend my team. I don't force anyone to use it, but it's highly suggested. And it's one thing that I didn't know was so important before I got into real estate. I kind of just learned as I was in the business. But the 4 or the 3 main people that you want on your side is a real estate agent, a mortgage broker, and a lawyer, right? So the mortgage broker I met pretty early, both young, we vibed, let's go getter. The lawyer was the one it took me a bit to find, because it's like someone in law, typically like older, right? So when I met my guy, he had like a tattoo, he was younger, he wanted to start his own firm. I'm like, oh, I like this guy, and did a few deals, and I'm like, hey, this is my team. And when I introed the broker and the lawyer, they already knew each other. So I'm like, hey, let's do this.
Nice.
And it's one of those things where I have my full trust in them, and they'll get it done, right? And I've had times where I've worked with other people and it almost backfired, or like not backfired, but like a deal maybe dropped because I'm not used to their process, or I assume they did certain things but they didn't. It's not my job, but I still have to like check in on them, right? Making sure everything's going smooth. But yeah, and we call ourselves the Dream Team.
And I'd say that that you guys live up to that name. For me, the first thing was figuring out how much am I going to be pre-approved for? And obviously that requires working. And I did go ahead and work with the Dream Team, right? And you comfortable with me sharing who that is? Okay, so Matt Matt Hale. Shout out to my guy, mortgage broker. He looked at my situation, crunched the numbers, and gave me a number for what I'd be pre-approved for. Lower than I thought it'd be. So given my situation, I didn't have an insane amount of money saved up. I'd got to buy these expensive podcast mics and whatnot,
Invest in yourself.
Exactly. So, I didn't have a massive down payment saved up. I wasn't just like, absolutely caking it, waiting to spend money or anything. It came down to, okay, I have a job right now. I will not have a job very soon. I want to take advantage of this and leverage my current income to get some kind of asset. And brown people have always, brown people, parents and immigrants and stuff have always pushed towards real estate. So this was a decision with my parents as well. And I'm like, you know what? I just want to see my options. I don't have to do anything. I could use your guys' services to figure out if this is in any way realistic, assess it, and go from there. And I love that. I think everyone should at least have options. And full transparency, I had tried working with you, I guess 8 to 10 months before, maybe even a year before that, just looking at a couple places, and I was absolutely not even in a position back then to even get to that step, but it was a humbling experience. And I guess there was always something in the back of my head. I'm like, you know what? When I am in a bit of a better position, I am going to explore this because I do want to get into the real estate market.
Right.
So what happened there is basically, you like this process is, you know, you find out what exactly I'm kind of looking for, what my pre-approval is for, and you start sending me properties to my email. And I'm looking at these every day. And honestly, I was not too serious about it. I was looking at some of these. I'm like, man, like, forget it. Like,
Yeah.
look at the condo fee on this one. This one's like out of reach. This one I really want, but I can't afford that. This one's like outside of the city. Like, I just wanted a lot of things. And I learned a lot during this process and talking to you. And you've always been open and honest and like been very forthright about every property that I wanted to look at. We'd go look at it. So there's one situation where I was like, you know what, this spot makes sense. Let's go for it. Let's do it. And this was the first time that I learned about like multiple offers.
Oh
and
my God. I remember that place. Winter Lane.
yeah. No, there was one even before that. The one like near Carlton.
Oh man, that one was like offers same day we saw it. Then like in the parking lot, had to draft it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was so quick.
It was wild. And I had never like, I was like, this is moving quick.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
even for me, I'm like, this is a little bit crazy. But we put an offer in and was beat by like an insane margin. Obviously, we don't need to get into exact numbers or anything, but I
It was
did.
laughable almost.
It was like, oh man, like I'm not even in like the top 10 contention on the spot. But that's the reason I was looking at it. I'm like, this is good for investment sake because it's like a 4-bedroom near Carleton University. It's gonna be rented. Like I was like, I'm no real estate expert, but like this is kind of a no-brainer.
Right.
And that's why it went so crazy.
Yeah.
So
But here's the thing though. So we did like 3 offers, right? The third one is the one we got, but each one we were more and more prepared.
absolutely.
That first one came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So like I didn't really have time to prepare and all that. It was just like go, go, go.
Yep.
The second one, we had a little bit more time prepared and we were in a better position that time, right? We knew kind of what it could go for and we were close. And the third one, it was a Hail Mary. Like that one was, and you know, it was the letter, remember?
Yeah. Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah, it came down to the letter. So
Yeah.
it just goes to show like you have to be prepared and do your work in advance so that when the opportunity comes, you're ready.
So I'll dive into the letter a bit for anyone listening or watching right now. So the letter,
You probably thought it was silly.
at the time, I'm like, what? You want me to go and type up a personal letter to whoever this owner may be, telling them my situation, who I am, and why it would be great for me to get this property.
Right.
You tell me that, and I'm like, okay, I guess. Go type it up, send it to you. You're like, thanks, we're good. This is perfect.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, man, whatever you say. Like, you're the guy. Apparently, you know what you're talking about. At the time, I'm like, Josh has got some tricks up his sleeve. I'm going to trust the guy. This is why I'm not doing this without a real estate agent. I need someone who's going to, like, go to bat for me. And you did. And so I was like, okay, cool, whatever. Didn't work out the first time. The second time, you know, I actually wasn't that thrilled about the place. But then this third time, and by the way, this all happened in like the span of 2 weeks, starting to look,
Yep.
right? So this third one, I guess, basically what happened is there was this one spot that I was looking at the night before. And, you know, it's in the listings and I'm taking a look at the photos and I'm like, this is really nice. And at this point I had gotten a bit of an idea of what the market's saying, and things are hot. Things are gone quickly before even it goes like to like market. I don't know what you guys call that, bully offer or whatever, but I'm just sitting there like, man, this is intense. I'm not even sure if I want all this smoke. Like, but the competitive nature in me is like kind of got alerted and I'm just like, nah, man, like, let's see. Like,
Yep.
and so I messaged you. I think I messaged you that morning. The morning that this place is going to be taking offers. Was it? Yeah, it was that morning. And I'm like, dude, I want to see this place. Like, I legitimately want to see this place. And you're out in Barhaven. This is like, maybe I messaged you at like 8 a.m. and you're like, dude, not going to work. There's tenants in the house. We're not going to be able to like see it today. And I'm like, bro, like we got to see it today.
Yeah.
Like I want to check this place out. And you're like, all right, bet, I'll make it happen. And which is like, dude, like, man,
Yeah, I got you.
that's the guy right there, you know? And I'm like, okay, how do we see this place? You message me, you're like, okay, we got 15 minutes. I got it. I got us 15 minutes. You got to be there at this time sharp.
So how that happens is, so when it's tenanted, you need 24-hour notice, right? Unless tenants are cool with it.
Yep.
Which I get. But so we piggybacked on like someone's showing that was already there. That's why we only had like a limited time.
Exactly.
So they were done early. They were like, okay, like
Can we just
yeah.
Yes. And so I called my mom up, and because like I'm like, I want to go check this out with my mom, and my mom, she's like, I already looked at that place last night. There's not a chance we get it. It's too nice. I'm like, okay, well, what's the harm in checking? Josh is coming. Like, let's just do it anyways. She's like, all right, pick her up. We go, come into the place. First thing I see, it's like right beside my old high school. I'm like, okay, I know this community. It's like really chill, really calm.
Yep.
Families would love it. Second thing I see, I'm like, okay, it's a corner house. And like a lot of the other places that I was seeing are not that, and also they don't have a garage. That I was like, I don't know if you remember, I was like obsessing over that. I'm like, dude, we live in Canada. A garage is not going to get any less valuable over time. We have winter here. And so I go and I check this place out. I see that they got like a big BMW X6 in the garage, and I'm like, dude, it fits like a big car.
Yeah.
This is dope. This is really good. And I'm looking around the house. I'm like, the layout's a little weird, but I like it. I really like it. The kitchen is like 5-star. And I just really like the vibe and flow of the whole place. And I thought the renovations that they did to it were great. And you're like, yeah, dude, like they did a bunch of renovations to this place in like the last couple of years. Anyways, long story short, I'm like, tell my mom, I'm like, I want it. I'm like, Josh, I want it. And then you're even like, dude, like, I know you want it, but like, it's super like out of your budget range. And,
Right.
And I'm just like, yeah, I know. Let me just call Matt and see what we could do here, you know? And I call him and I'm like, bro, like, what can we do about this pre-approval number? Like, what are we saying here? You know? And basically, like, without getting into too much detail here, he basically gave me a hack that maybe you could explain a little bit more for people looking to get a home. But he's like, look, there's this debt that if you get rid of this credit card debt, one of these credit cards, if it's gone, you're automatically going to be boosted a lot more. And I'm like, dude, I got the cash sitting right here. Let's just pay off that debt and then we're good to go.
Yep.
And did that really quick. I'm like, run the numbers. It's still just not enough. It's still just not enough for like, you know, what we would think. The comparables in the area and what things are going for. And long story short, I'm like, dude, we're putting an offer in. Let's just see what happens. Here's the letter. I forgot if it was like Family Day or Valentine's Day or something like that.
It was a holiday.
There was some kind of holiday.
I believe it was Family Day, actually.
It might have been that. And maybe you want to talk about what it's like from a real estate agent's perspective, trying to put in an offer that you know is maybe not the best.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never say like no. Like if you really want to I'll put an offer in, right? It takes me 30 minutes to an hour, let's say, to get everything done. And what I've learned is you just never know, right? So I'm like, I'm down if you're down type thing.
Yeah.
So we still put it in, but I knew, I'm like, hey, it was like an hour before they were presenting and it was like one offer. I'm like, okay, I was expecting a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, yeah, it's Family Day, right? So as a buyer, like you kind of want those holidays because viewings are down on the listings statistically.
Yeah.
So you have a higher chance. And then I think offer presentation came and there's like 3 offers. I'm like, okay, we made podium. At least we were top 3.
Yeah.
you know?
Already like good with the moral victory, but like that's not Josh Reyes.
Yep.
Then let's see what you did after that.
And then I knew we had the letter. We were like lower than the comparables, which was fine. But again, you never know. And I get a call from the agent and they were like, my client loves your client. And they're like, we really want to work with you. Like, is there like, it was close. All the offers were close. And she's like, I'm going to give everyone a last chance to like make their offer better. But my client loved your letter. And it's cool. So we chatted and we're like, okay, like fourth quarter, like the ball was in your hands. Time was ticking, right? Yeah. And you're like, Josh, I want to shoot. I'm like, all right, this is you. So we did a little calculated bump, and it made all the difference.
It really did, man.
Yep.
I remember this was like the most tense 2 hour period of my life, because I'm sitting in the car with my brother, and my brother had just gotten back from a trip. This dude had no clue that I'm even like trying to get a crib right now. He's so blindsided. We go for a drive, and I'm just like, dude, like, honestly, I'm not gonna get it, so don't get your hopes up. But like, definitely put an offer into a home today that like I can't even fully afford just yet. I'm gonna find a way to,
Yeah.
but like we're doing it. And he's just looking at me like speechless, like, what is going on? You're calling me every like 10-15 minutes, like, can you sign this
Right.
new thing?
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I'll sign the thing. And then you get it, and like, all right, we put your new offer, and I need you to sign a new thing. I'm like, dude, let's go.
Yeah.
And upping it, and like, it's like way more intense than I thought it'd be. I actually felt like a little stressed out, man. I'm
Yep.
just like, what's going on here? But me and my brother, we go to McDonald's, obviously, as you do, and we're going to get a coffee. And so we're sitting there, and we're waiting for your last call after we put our final offer in. And it's like the most tense 45-minute silence where I'm just holding my phone waiting for you to call. And we're in the drive-thru, and I get the call, and you're like, dude, I'm so sorry, man. Like, we really tried our best. What you're going to have to do is pack your bags because you got a new house. And I'm just like, what? Are you kidding me? We won the offer that day, and I genuinely think it's because I got the dream team, dude. So I've been dying to tell the story since it happened. Like, we're talking about back in like February,
March, yeah.
February, March time, and here we are in October. But now I'm sitting here in the house that you helped me buy, and dude, I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful for the whole team, and like also the serendipity of it all and how it all worked out. So I thought it was crazy because my parents, they didn't know yet. So I was like telling my brother, I'm like, this is just one of those things that like in life, I'm very proud that I did this. But on our way home, like, I was going to just call them and be like, we got it. Whoa. I was like, nah, you know what? I'm going to take what Josh just did to me and do it to them. So basically on that drive home, we get home, and I'm in the drive. I'm like, Sal, record this. So maybe I can edit in the video or something of this later for those watching. But basically I walk into the house, and my mom's looking at me. It's like, what's the news? I'm like, man, Mom, I'm so sorry. We did the best that we could. It was great. And she's like, oh, man, those fuckers. Like, she's just like, she's,
I know. She's competitive.
Oh, yeah, my mom, she might be where I get it from, man.
Yep.
But, and then I tell her, I'm like, well, I say the exact same thing. Like, we're going to have to pack our bags because we got the house. She goes crazy. Everyone's crying. They're just so happy. And it's like one of those moments as the oldest child, whatever, that they dream of, that your parents dream of for a very long time.
Right.
My dad came home that night. He's in tears. It's crazy to see how much that means to them. For me, it meant a lot. Don't get me wrong. It means a whole lot, and I'm very grateful. But I just didn't tie that much emotion to it. I was like, this is a business move. This is like, let's see if we can make this happen. If we don't, we don't. But obviously, my emotions were in it at the end there as well. So it was really cool to see.
You got a dub.
Because we got the dub, man. A Hail Mary, Patty Mahomes, overtime, behind the shoulder throw, toe drag in the corner of the end zone. It was like, we should not have got it, but we did. And so, kudos to you, man. Kudos to the whole team. But I learned a lot throughout that whole experience. And it's something that, whether this was the smartest thing for me to do or not, I am so grateful for everything that I've learned. And even this last like 8 months being a homeowner, it's like, oh, wow. There's a lot to this. B, the whole process of like even getting a home, being pre-approved these days, it's like, it's tough. And it's a dream for a lot of people. But I don't want to sit here on this podcast and just say that like, just getting real estate is the only thing, the only goal or anything. You've seen where I lived before. I lived in a little studio apartment for $800 a month in Westboro. Like that was it for me. And I was cool with that. I was happy with that. I'm happy traveling around the world in hostels, and I'm happy in a beautiful house in the Ottawa suburbs, Right. But I just think that it's important to highlight all the different things that had to happen for us to secure the property. So I do want to dive a little bit into some of those things, right?
For sure.
So from the perspective of like presenting an offer, what is a real estate agent's like actual role there, and what are they like allowed to do, not allowed to do in terms of like trying to get the dub? Because there are a lot of rules I learned.
There's a lot of rules. Yep. So the way my process works is I always show you comparables, because list prices, it's marketing, right? So when people are afraid of these 100K over asking and stuff, I'm like, well, was it under listed by 100K, you know? But I get how people get confused. So I always give you the facts, like the straight numbers, be like, this is what homes are like selling for repetitively, so you know the actual value, which we did see, and we're like, damn, that's kind of high, you know?
Yeah.
So as long as that's out there, we know that whatever we bid, we're at least at the value of the market, right? I never want my clients to overpay. And there's times where we walked away or we hit a cap because we're like, it doesn't make sense to keep bidding over this amount, right?
And that's the ethical role as well of a real estate agent, is like, you're not just looking to maximize the sale, even though that helps your pockets, you know, technically speaking, right?
For sure.
It's actually acting in the best faith, good faith of your client. And
right.
Yeah.
And so honestly, we try to control everything we can, right? So that's the price, the closing date, the conditions that we have in, and like little thing, but like the deposit, right? And I told you, I'm like, those are like the main 4 things we're gonna focus on, right? So as long as we do this price, at least start off, we want to give them their closing date, because seller's market, they have all the leverage, right? So if it works for you and it works for them, it makes your case a little bit better. And then the conditions, we had the dream team on point, so we were very comfortable with that.
Absolutely.
And I believe Alex reviewed the status too, so he actually like looked into it beforehand to make sure everything was good. And then we had everything. We had our best foot forward from the beginning with the letter and our offer and all the numbers. And from there, I try to create a relationship with the agent if I haven't already worked with them. Like, hey, my name's Josh, Blue Panda agent, representing my client Deepak, and I give a little backstory, right, just in case they don't see the letter. I actually hide it in the offer so they can't see it. Before, I used to send like 2 attachments. And I've heard of some agents possibly, or like it could be a simple mistake of just not seeing the letter or presenting the letter. But when I throw it randomly in the offer, you have to see it, right? So that I make sure you see it.
Smooth. I like that. I didn't know that.
And yeah, it's just communication. I think that's what's key.
Well, also speed. I think that's one thing that, you know, sets you apart as well, is like all the electronic documents are sent to me instantly. They're signed instantly, all electronically, especially during COVID. You know, I bought this house at the height of COVID, when you got to wear a mask and there's restrictions to like even what you can view, how long you can view, who can come in and view with you. I just learned a whole bunch. And another big lesson that I learned is, even once you've got the like, yes, job's not done.
Oh, no.
The job's just getting started. And now,
but you have the dream team, right, to like guide you through that whole process. I was confident we were going to close for sure.
Absolutely. I wasn't. I was freaking out. I was like, hey, we got this now. And it's like, okay, now what? And it's like a million documents, a million proof that you are who you say you are, and you're making as much as you say you're making, and these are your assets, and this is your debt, and this is, you know, a million things. You know, I think I might have scanned my ID like 20 times during this process to just make sure that whoever needs it gets it. Financial statements, going back 90 days, sending these accounts, making sure you had the funds, making sure everything's above board, everything's legit. And it's like all like learning experiences, stuff that if I'm going to buy my second property, I'm going to have all ready to go.
Right.
I'm going to have it all in a document ready to go. And like whatever you need, I'll have it.
Right.
This time, my first time, home buying experience, I was hella frustrated by all that stuff. I'm like, don't you know who I am by now? Like,
Right.
I'll just be good. Don't you have it in the system somewhere? I've sent this 6 times. Then I got to send it to the lawyer. Then I got to this void check and this. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my God, there's so much
and
to it.
add the seller's market to that, where quicker closings, right? Because normally, let's say you have 90 to 120 days in a more balanced market, more chill, but like we're seeing like 30-day close.
Add to the fact
Right.
that I moved up our closing date because
You needed to move. You were traveling.
I was traveling. I was leaving the country right after buying the crib.
It worked out perfectly.
It kind of did, but I really put the pressure on you. I'm like, look, Josh's gonna hate me, but like I'm gonna push for this.
Yep.
I really would like to request to move it up like by 2 weeks or something wild. And you're like, dude, it's already sketchy how quickly we gotta close this. Like,
Yeah.
trust me, in my experience, like it would not be good. I'm like, make it happen, bro.
Yep.
I love you.
And then all of a sudden, last minute, the lender was like, "Are the tenants in there?" I'm like, "They're gone." It's like, "Oh, we need proof." And then remember that?
Yeah.
We have to get more documents. We're like, "No, they're gone." But I get it,
Yeah.
right? But
Dude.
man, things come up.
Things come up, man.
But-
Anyway, I don't want to just sit here and talk about it for the whole pod, but it is such a fun story. It is like, it's a win. It's really fun to share. I want to talk about like some of the other things that you've learned in this last year, being a real estate agent, closing an insane amount. If you're comfortable sharing, I'll give you the floor to talk about your stats for this last year alone. I think it'd also be cool to look back at one day. But like, talk to me about like that, and also some of the big like milestones and lessons you learned this year.
Man, this has been a very good year, given everything that's happened. And sometimes it's hard to say that, right? Because we're still in a pandemic, and I know
Absolutely.
how people's lives have been like affected like drastically. Thankfully, I'm in a position that I'm able to still operate. But this year has actually taught me a lot. And oh man, where to start?
Let's start with the numbers,
Yes.
bro.
So
Let's start with the insane numbers.
I've done 15 million in sales volume this year, but the
Nuts.
interesting thing is, I don't track that.
That's not your success metric.
Everyone needs money to live. So I need to like I know my expenses, and I'm pretty good with money. I'm not like bougie or like I need to spend because I have money, right? So after I got to like a comfortable living, I'm just like, I don't care. It's not about the money. It's about like happy clients, right? And it was in end of August. I'm like, how much have I done this year? I was just curious, right? So I added the math, and then I came up with that number. But for me, it really wasn't about the number. It was about client success. But real estate made me realize that like valuing time a lot and slowing down. So I was like, go, get all this business. But I realized that like, it doesn't matter how much money you make. If you don't have time for yourself or to enjoy it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm struggling with right now. Like I'm taking my foot off the gas a little bit. Like I'm servicing everyone that I currently have to the best of my ability still, but I'm not actively trying to grow and get bigger because I could just see where I'm going to end up. And I'm like, I'm not going to like that.
Well, coming back to, your and Mal's experience up to this point, you kind of seeing some of the warning signs that this could lead to burnout.
Yep.
And
exactly.
that would be the opposite of what you want, which is success for your clients, because you just can't, like, if you're not able to do that, like, I always say, like, it's important to take care of yourself first before you can take care of anyone. And that sounds selfish, but I think it's actually selfless. I think it's really important that, like, again, you guys are just so self-aware. I love it, man. You're kind of recognizing that. And I've seen you guys as well, like, go out to the cottage and go and unplug sometimes and intentionally just take family time, or like playing with the dog. Shout out to Luna, right? Yeah, like doing things outside of work as well. But I simply don't comprehend how you do it, because just like having worked with you in that context as well, and then also seeing all the stuff you're doing on social media, the YouTube channel that you guys just started, you guys just moved as well into a new place in the middle of all of this as well. I just and all that, you're doing all that and still responding to texts instantly. You're helping your clients. I know it's not just me. You're dealing with a whole roster of people, putting out a million fires, doing a bunch of things all at once. How do you do that without, like, I mean, I know you got your team, but they're different roles and different players completely, right? How do you not have your own team within your own business, kind of?
I probably should.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking into that. Mal has a few virtual assistants helping her, and we were like, maybe we can get someone full time for the both of us. Kind of split them half and half.
Okay.
But it is a lot to like manage everything. And last year, around this time, I kind of dropped the ball. I was like comfortable, like I had an email come in. It was like Friday night, or it was on the weekend, and I'm like, I'll respond to it like tomorrow, like the normal person, right? And then I'm
off the clock now. I need to relax a little bit,
like
unwind.
I made a few sales. I'm okay.
Yeah.
And so I didn't answer. I should have at least acknowledged it, right? But I didn't answer. They ended up going with someone else.
Oh, wow.
Right? And I was like, damn, like I dropped the ball. And I would have loved to have worked for that one. And they were a family friend, and they really wanted me to work with them, but their partner, who didn't know me, wanted to try someone else. And they were trying to give me all the opportunities I could.
Right.
And I dropped the ball. And ever since then, I was like, never again. And I'm like, every client needs to feel like they're my only client.
Yeah, that's how I felt, man. I was like, I don't know how this dude just dropped everything, drove from Barhaven to Orleans, which is like a 40-minute drive, if not more. And then with traffic on that, and on time, ready to go, clean fade, ready to, like, just absolutely professional, and like showed up. And I was just like, dude, like, I'm happy that you're doing this for me, obviously, but it's like, how? I just don't get it.
Yep.
So I'd like strongly recommend, man, for your own sake, if you want to keep doing this, you gotta like at least admin stuff.
I know,
Like,
for sure.
That should not be you, my guy.
And in the beginning, it's a good motto to go off of. But once you like multiply that by like 10 clients, not sustainable.
No.
And then now you set the bar that you're always gonna respond 24/7. You're always on, which is great, and like it's good for clients. But sometimes they take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Not to say that my clients are taking advantage of me. It's just I now feel like I should.
It's an expectation at that point. It's like, yo, like he's been. It would be out of character for you to just all of a sudden be like, dude, let me chill on my Friday evening. Bro.
Yeah.
Like,
but it's hard because it's real estate, as you know. It's so timely.
Yeah, it is.
I'm like, I know how important this is to you, and I'm like, I have to respond to this. I have to act on this because you just never know.
Interesting.
And recently I had a client. She emailed me, I think it was like Friday night or like Saturday morning. And the subject was, this email's for Monday.
Oh,
like she
nice.
really did. She's like, it's not urgent. It was a question, but she's like, I don't want you to be working on the weekend.
Yeah.
And I respected that. I'm like,
that's
cool. Kind of nice, like I felt
Dude,
relieved.
I think I'm gonna steal that.
I still responded though.
Oh.
yeah, because I respected the fact that she's like, you could wait till Monday. I was okay with responding. So,
dude,
yep.
I love it, man. Let's switch gears a little bit because we are like, just like I didn't want to happen. I haven't even scratched the surface of all the stuff I want to talk to you about, man. I think we might have to do a part 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. But one thing that I want to talk to you about is this new venture that you and Mal have started, which is your YouTube channel.
Yep.
Now, you had this passion for personal finance that I've seen shine through all of your content, and it fits so authentically with your brand and you guys, everything that you do, because not only is real estate like deeply tied to your finances and especially your personal finances, but also what Mal's doing on her end with the business coaching and whatnot. A big unspoken thing in the business community is managing your personal finances. It's one thing to have an accountant deal with your books and everything's all straight and whatever for your corporation or small business or whatever, but then I've found even like it can get kind of difficult to like I just stop caring. I'm just like, you know what, like bills are being covered, everything's good. I'm not like I just don't have the bandwidth to care right now about optimizing this stuff. And that was something that Mal helped me so much with throughout our journey together. And I'll openly tell like the listeners, I was in a significant amount of debt when I started working with her, which is crazy because I'm like, dude, I'm gonna
And before you bought a home,
before I bought a home and everything.
months before it too.
But
Yeah.
she had helped me get that turned around through focusing on the right things and getting prioritizing getting out of that debt and that kind of stuff. And so this first YouTube video that you guys put out, why don't you talk to me about it a little bit and the whole channel?
Yeah, so the whole channel, the idea of it is called the In-Betweeners because that's just kind of how Mal and I have always been. We're not like heavily on one side. We kind of like, we learn about the other side and like we respect it, but we want to just like do a bit of everything. And I feel like with social media, everyone says niche down hard. So
Yeah.
everyone's like, no, you have to do crypto or you're not going to be wealthy, you know, or you have to do real estate. And I respect all the fields, and I think everyone should do a little bit of everything. And it's like diversifying, right? So that's kind of why we wanted to be called the In-Betweeners. And it comes back to LVD days because the reason why we started the company was when we were in powerlifting, there was no brand that represented us. There was like the hardcore, like
Insane.
skulls,
Iron
the
Gym,
beards.
yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't us, right? So same thing. It's like there wasn't really a channel that like represented us who were like kind of the in-between but still want to like live life but be wealthy, right? Like we understand that we could die tomorrow, but we understand that we might not die tomorrow. So you have to like prepare for that, right?
I like that.
Yeah, people are like super frugal or like super invest $10 a month for 30 years and then you'll be a millionaire, which is fair.
Save your coffee, your Starbucks money, your avocado toast, that whole
right. So and that's kind of the whole story behind that. And our first video was just on how we leveraged our first home to buy our second home, so kind of how real estate has really helped us. And yeah.
And I'm going to have a link in the description to the Mal and Josh's YouTube channel. You got to check it out. It's just really fun. And like, I found a really like enjoyable way of getting information that even if I know a lot of this stuff, I still want to watch it and get a refresher. And I always take some tidbit with me.
Right.
You know, there's no like, I mean, I'm an in-betweener too in a lot of ways, you know? So I think you're going to build an amazing community on there. And you guys are naturals with the YouTube and social media content and that kind of stuff. But how the hell do you take that onto your plate on top of everything you guys are doing?
It's hard. I'm not going to lie. In the beginning, it's like you get your systems going and everything's running smooth. It's not until you throw something there that's different that really challenges your systems and your processes, right?
Oh, yeah.
And eye-opening. I'm like, damn, I need to like refine a few things. And I'm working a little bit more now, but I honestly like it.
Yeah.
It's like a switch of gears, right? So instead of being always on real estate, you're just like learning a new thing, right? Like I forgot which book I was reading, but they talk about how humans have to play and that as adults, we forget to play. And as kids, you like, obviously you play and it like gets your creativity up and everything. And as adults, you just like fall into this like pattern for a long time. And then you just forget about like having fun, challenging your mental ability, your physical. And play doesn't have to be like playing with blocks or doing puzzles. It could be anything from like learning how to cook, playing the guitar, you know. And for me right now, that's learning YouTube and video.
No, I love that, man. That's really interesting. I don't know how you guys are managing all that. That's, you know, shout out to you. You know, I could kind of relate a little bit on the podcast front, but for me, I'm trying my very best to do as little as possible. This, what we're doing right now, obviously I can never outsource, and I love doing it. I only want to do what I love doing and what I bring the most value to.
That's fair.
So, you know, I really do want to get kind of surgical on what you were talking about in the next 5 to 6 months, which is the systems and making things a little bit more automatic. And that means taking things off my plate. One thing that I really love about you guys, and I know we're running out of time here, but I really, really like that it doesn't matter what you're doing in the current time, and that doesn't define who you guys are. It's always the common denominator is who you are, right? And so I'll put it out here right now. I don't think you're going to do real estate forever. I just don't think that that's going to happen.
I don't think so either.
I think you're going to move.
It could, but I don't think so.
It absolutely could. But I just knowing you guys and how self-aware you are at when you fall out of love with something. And I hope I'm not overstepping here.
That's all good.
But like, I think one day is going to come when you're like, you know what? I want to scratch this itch. And that's what I love about you guys. And that's what I think comes through in what you're saying about play. You guys are playing the game of life a little bit better than a lot of people because you're keeping that, yo, well, how am I feeling about this right now? And am I getting lost in the sauce here? And am I just chasing some metric or something that I don't truly care about? So how do you feel about that?
I agree. And am I trying to scratch an itch now? Possibly. You know, like, again, coming back to what I learned this year, it's that everyone wants to make a lot of money, right? And once I made good money, it's still like, again, it just comes back to like wanting balance and wanting to live a life that you love.
Yeah.
And it's funny you mention that because when we started LVD, I was like, this is my business till I die. I don't care what anyone says. This is it, right? I'm gonna make it work no matter what. And then Mal was kind of classic Mal. She's like kind of in that mindset. She's like, well, this is kind of like what I'm doing now, but I'm not attached to it.
Right.
Why would you be attached to something at like 23, 21 when you don't know who you're gonna be when you're 40? And I'm like, oh, that's so true. And she's just kind of like the go with the flow type person.
Right.
And I kind of realized that too. I'm like, okay, I'm in real estate now. Will I be in it forever? I don't know. Right. You know, and I'll be totally honest. If I find another passion next year and I run with it full time, I'll do that.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just all about like enjoying your life, to be honest.
I love that, man. And you're someone who, despite how hard you work, despite how much like grind you put in, and honestly, like genuinely, like just one of the most like even keel people that I know. I don't think I've ever seen you like or heard of you losing your temper or anything. You just seem very like level headed with how you do everything, extremely professional and everything. But just how
that's 7 years of coaching from Mal.
Yeah,
We've been
seriously.
together for 6 and a bit, you know, like I've learned a lot from her.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if I've been able to achieve so much in like 6 or 7 months with her, I can't imagine that amount of time. It's incredible. But one thing like that, you know, you made me think about there is like, that's what I love about this, what we're doing right now is like, sure, there's going to be a timestamp on when it's released and whatever, and, you know, we'll promote it and all that jazz. But when I look back at it, I'm going to be like, oh, cool. That's what we were interested in at that time. Period in our lives.
Yep.
But on episode 285, when we do like our 4th episode together, and you're building muscle cars and like
I love it.
and like just getting into like CrossFit or like American Ninja Warrior or whatever you're on at that point, I just can't wait to look back and reflect and like, cool, this is what we were doing then that built us into the people we are today.
Yep, exactly.
And that's my fun. That's my play. I like documenting it. This is it.
Yep.
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 Dude, I could just sit here and chat with you for like 5 or 6 more hours, but I just want to kind of end the podcast on this one real question here.
Okay.
What kind of legacy does Josh Reyes want to leave behind?
Great question. So before, it was more about me and how I wanted to be like a certain person or like leave like these businesses and all this money for like my family and stuff.
Yeah.
Early on. And then now, like, again, being more self-aware and getting older and being more in business, I'm just realizing now what my legacy is to make sure my team eats.
Ooh.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, thinking about it, I just want, it might be selfish, but I just want myself, my family, and my friends to do well. You know, like, I dream of having a business that I employ all my homies, all my friends, you know?
I've been thinking about this
a
bit lately.
They're set, I'm set, you know, they're living life, they're investing, we're all like growing together.
Yeah.
That's my legacy. I want the people around me to do well.
Yes.
You know, I don't care about like if my name is a #1 best-selling author or whatever it is. I don't care about that. As long as the people that's around me are happy, that's it.
Dude, I can't think of a better way to end this podcast here, brother. I appreciate you coming on. Where can people find you, your YouTube channel, everything that you're about? Shout out yourself.
Big Instagram guy, so Josh H Reyes, Reyes. You'll find everything through there. The In-Betweeners is our YouTube channel. Can't really search it right now because we haven't had enough subscribers to change our name, and there's a UK TV show, okay. So that's what's gonna pop up. But go to my YouTube and you'll find everything through there.
Or just click the link in the description here. I'll try to make it easy for people as well. Go subscribe. It's fire content. Thank you so much for joining me today, brother. I appreciate you. I'm glad to call you a friend, a brother, a homie. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks for having me, man. It was fun.
Thanks a lot.